G'day Binanceans and welcome to this week's episode of Binance Beach. As always, I'm your host Liam and today I'm joined by my good mate and the Australian ambassador and council member for Solana University, Ariel. Mate, thanks for jumping on.
Thank you, Liam. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Solana, the ecosystem, and we're going to talk about some really interesting projects and innovation that's currently happening on chain. Solana launched in 2020. It had a very high through that bull run, and it's also had low lows as a chain. But I think what's really interesting about Solana is the way it's recovered through the end of last year and the start of this year. So let's see what has given this project such amazing resilience, why the community is so passionate, and let's jump into some price charts to start off with, and then we'll talk about some interesting projects and wrap it up with your outlook for the Solana ecosystem. Sound good, mate?
Let's do it.
Sick. Let's get into it. So Solana launched in 2020 on Binance. It launched around $1, which seems like great value now. It ran up to $259.90 in the bull run of 2021, but it then experienced a pretty remarkable demise and crash down. Unfortunately, Solana was embroiled quite deeply in the FTX debacle, not directly, but indirectly. And so that led to Solana's price dropping as low as around $8 through our last crypto winter. But as I said, it's had a phenomenal recovery, and that's been driven by a whole lot of really interesting projects. But for the most part, I think a really strong community that's been building on this chain. This year, particularly, Solana's had very strong performance, and most notably, it's outrun the Ethereum price as well, which is obviously the main layer one that we have, that DeFi is built on, that a lot of older crypto protocols are built on. So let's jump into why, and I'm really excited to hear from you today. Let's kick it off, Ariel. What is Solana and why should we care about this crypto?
Sure. So Solana is a layer one blockchain which supports smart contracts. So similarly, like Ethereum, we have DeFi projects, we have NFTs. So all of that can be built on the Solana blockchain. It uses a different type of virtual machine. So when you code it, it's Rust based. And the main difference between Solana and Ethereum is first that it's a monolithic blockchain. So it means that it processes all the transactions in one layer, whereas Ethereum has multiple layers, layer 2s, layer 3s, and so on. And the main difference is the fact that it was built with a purpose of supporting a insane amount of transactions per second, so over 50,000 transactions per second. And achieve that mass scalability and support one day global adoption.
That's a really interesting point because Solana seemed to be very fast and very cheap the first time I used it compared to my experience with Ethereum. Now, let's jump into a little bit more about why Solana is such an effective chain. What do you think sets it apart from Ethereum? And, being fast and being cheap, I think, is one of those key areas.
Sure. So again, just the fact that it's all in one layer, there is no fragmentation of liquidity, and you don't have to switch around between the different chains and different layers in that case, so you can get cheaper fees or higher scalability or transaction throughput. And that's exactly what it's trying to solve, where if you want to do the same on Ethereum, it's just going to be slow and it's going to be expensive to transact. And again, you just have to be moving between chains. Whereas in Solana, it's all in one chain, all the liquidity is in there. It keeps things simple and perfect for user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. User experience is a key call out too. I think because a lot of Solana's key infrastructure and key projects have been built more recently than some of the older Ethereum infrastructure protocols or DeFi protocols, particularly, I think the UX is actually a lot better. I think some of the wallets on Solana are really, really strong, although we've now seen a resurgence, I think, of ETH based wallets that are catching up. So the user experience seems to really be at the core of Solana's value proposition against
Mhm.
Ethereum and then also against other layer ones.
No, I think that's very intertwined with the with the types of wallets that we have for each ecosystem. So back in 2021, for example, the main Ethereum wallet would be MetaMask, and that is renowned for not having the best user experience or not keeping it as simple. And for Solana, it would be Phantom, which was very, very simple and people knew what was going on. So I think that's one of the key factors which demonstrates the user experience, easiness, and onboarding.
Definitely. Now, a lot of noise was made about Ethereum when it moved to proof of stake with the merge. And then Ethereum upgrades tend to attract a lot of attention. But Solana's got a really key upgrade later this year. What is Firedancer? What can you tell me about this upgrade?
Awesome. So Firedancer was announced around last Breakpoint. So Breakpoint is the annual conference for Solana. And Firedancer is basically the second implementation of Solana, in which a whole another team of developers are gonna write the core code of Solana from scratch in a way that if there's a bug on the current one, there's very small probability that the same bug will be present on this second implementation. So it's basically developing Solana again, so there's no single point of failure. And that's very important because it's going to increase the reliability of the chain. As many people know, Solana has also been infamous for having halts. And again, Firedancer is just going to be one more step towards reliability and making sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, downtime's definitely been one of the things to watch for Solana, and it's definitely something that the Ethereum ecosystem proponents tend to bring up. So it'll be awesome to see a really solid fix for that, and hopefully we don't see Solana face those issues again. Let's talk about some DApps because this is where I think Solana gets really interesting. What can you share about some innovations in the world of DEXs, decentralized exchanges, and of staking? What's going on in those areas?
Yeah. So the two biggest apps that we have on Solana is Jupiter and JITO. So Jupiter is the biggest DAX, but in fact it's an aggregator. So it's the type of DAX that pretty much finds the best prices over all the available DAXs on the Solana blockchain, and therefore we'll take into consideration such as liquidity. And basically, it's going to aggregate all the best prices so that you get the best price whenever you swap tokens. And it grew a lot, and it also developed more functionalities and features for its users. So you can also trade perpetual futures. There's also a DCA function. If where you out, it's basically you automate your purchases or your sales of a specific token, and it's pretty much into any token. So even if they're very low liquidity or if it's one of those meme coins that people try to get in the very beginning, as long as you have the contract address, you are able to use it. So that is definitely one of the dApps that have been achieving the highest amount of volume on a daily basis. And the other project, which is the biggest protocol in Solana by TVL metric, total value locked, is JITO. So JITO is a staking platform, staking and liquid staking. In fact, a nice little data point that I was checking before this call was that JITO currently holds almost 50% of all the liquid staked tokens on Solana. And it was also it also became very famous because of the airdrop that happened late last year. So it was one of the biggest airdrops of all time, giving users that staked around 1 or just 2 Solana in the very beginning around $10,000. So at the time, Solana was at the price of around $20. So imagine staking $40 and getting back over $10,000. That's one of the reasons that I feel that helps Solana rise back from the ashes and get more liquidity and get more attention into the ecosystem. So yeah, and I believe these are the two projects that are leading the way and grabbing a lot of attention on Solana.
Yeah, both of which had a pretty notable airdrop last year. That's a great point. And I think that airdrop meta really drove a lot of user activity. But I think it attracted a lot of activities to Solana. And I think we've seen a lot of that interest stay, which is fantastic for the ecosystem more broadly. I think it's created some really stiff competition for the market leader in Ethereum. But I think we're also seeing some pretty stiff competition come up from the TON ecosystem as well, and a few other interesting layer ones. DePin's been a really notable area of innovation on Solana as well, and seems to be a bit more unique to Solana as far as I'm aware. What is DePin and why is this such a cool idea?
Yeah. So DePin stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. So basically, these are projects or networks that uses tokens to incentivize people to contribute to a certain to this like real world infrastructure network. The best way to explain is actually giving an example. So there is one of them that is actually listed on Binance is called Render. So that is a way that it's a decentralized Amazon Web Services. So basically, if you have a gaming computer, for example, you can kind of rent out the computer processing power for content creators to use for rendering videos or images. And that is a way that you don't necessarily need to rely on the centralized providers and monopolies such as AWS. Another very interesting project on Solana is called HiveMapper, and they are basically a decentralized Google Street View or Google Maps. So instead of having the Google cars that goes around once or maybe twice, once every 1 or 2 years, you actually have everyday drivers who install a dash cam into their cars, and they map out their streets from their neighborhoods, or if they go traveling, they can map out all the roads. Therefore, you have a system in which there's plenty of people contributing it. The road images are a lot more updated, and they're all contributing to this map, which again is decentralized. It's built by the people. You can have Uber drivers or truck drivers contributing to this. And instead of having all that money going to a monopoly like Google, you can actually be contributing to the individuals. And big companies such as UPS or Uber or Amazon, which needs these images for deliveries, are on the demand side. So basically, all of this is the tokenomics is the fact that like you have the supply side, which are the people who are earning these tokens by mapping out these roads. And on the demand side, there's these big companies which need updated imagery from these roads. So these like just two examples of DePin projects on Solana.
Yeah, and what I think is so cool about DePin is that it creates an alternative business model which could challenge these existing monopolies. And I think that's a really important point to call out. How do you go about building a business that challenges Google Earth? You can't do that in a traditional way, particularly with the power and money and resources that Google has. It's incredibly difficult to tackle that from a traditional business perspective. But these DePin projects, these decentralized physical infrastructure networks, create that alternative business model that can challenge these monopolies and actually make potentially a better product. And that's a really, really cool concept. That's a really cool idea.
I agree. And we're having more and more projects like these rising. And it's interesting to see that their preferred blockchain to be built on is Solana, specifically for the fact that it is able to process hundreds of thousands of transactions easily without having high fees or anything like that.
Awesome. Let's finish on memes. And this is something we talk about sometimes. This is such a funny area of crypto. And, without going down the rabbit hole of are memes great? Do they contribute to the ecosystem? Solana's had a really big surge on memes or of meme coins lately. What's going on in this part of the ecosystem? What should we be watching for memes on Solana?
Yes. So yeah, we've started hearing the fact that Solana has become the on-chain casino, and people betting on new tokens that are created every single day. And two of those stand out the most. There's a few of them. There's a few dogs. So Whiff, the dog with hats. There is Bonk, and also cats such as Popcat, which was just recently listed for perpetual trading on Binance. And some people claim that this is investing into culture, or their culture coins and not necessarily meme coins. But I think that the main takeaway from all of this is that, firstly, like, people are going to speculate on anything that could potentially be resembled as an investment. And because we've seen Doge in the past giving insane numbers of returns, people are going to continuously speculate on this as well, just like people like to gamble. But at the same time, it's interesting that the fact that Solana was the one that Solana was the blockchain of choice for these, because of the fact that, again, has processing power to support all of this demand, and having billions of dollars of volume flowing through these meme coins every single day. Whereas I'm not sure if other blockchains would be able to sustain all of that.
And the price per transaction too. Earlier in the year, I was transacting on Ethereum, and in a morning, I spent nearly $300 on gas fees, which is insane, right? And there's no way you can purchase assets like meme coins and trade in a scalable way on a chain like Ethereum now on a layer one. On Solana, you can, because you're paying cents for transactions. They happen really quickly. So the trading experience is significantly better, I think, for those kind of small cap and emerging tokens, we'll call them. Before you do look at any meme coins, please do your own research, and please be careful, because that's not necessarily the most transparent part of this space. And a lot of these projects really don't have anything backing them other than ideas and culture. So please do your own research. That's a nice segue into our disclaimer. Please note this discussion includes insights from non-affiliated third parties and key opinion leaders. Binance provides this platform for informational and educational purposes only, and isn't responsible for any of the content or insights provided. This information should not be considered as advice, tax, financial, or investment advice from Binance. Thanks so much for joining me today, Ariel. It was great to chat Solana, and we'll have you back on very soon. Any closing thoughts on this ecosystem before we let you go?
Closing thoughts. Yes, we've seen huge price action this year. And I believe it's going to continue that way, because there's going to be continuous developments and upgrades to the chain, and things that are only possible on Solana. So watch this space.
Fantastic. You heard it here first. Well, maybe not first, but we have a Solana fanboy. Let's leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us, mate. I'll talk to you soon. Catch up.
Thank you for having me.